UFC 307 just recently wrapped up, and I'm going to recap and react to the entire card. It was honestly pretty damn good, and I'm looking forward to talking about each of the fights. Definitely some shady judging that we need to touch on. We'll get to it soon. Make sure you guys smash the likes. If you're new, subscribe. We're jumping into the first fight on the card, which was Court McGee, Tim Means. This fight was pretty damn quick. Tim Means did okay in the first minute or so, stopping Court McGee's pressure wrestling, but he was actually getting touched a bit on the feet. And then McGee locks in this absolutely gnarly neck crank and gets a tap in the first round. Court McGee hasn't finished somebody in a really long time. And at 39, I actually think this is the best Court McGee we've seen in the 2020s. It looked like reminiscent of a prime Court McGee, which is crazy because he's nearly 40 years old. And he made really easy work of Tim Means. Means looked like he was, 47, and McGee looked like he was 32. He came in with a tan. He came in shredded and in great shape. This was a new look Court McGee. I think he's still got some dog left in him. He's got some fights left, and I was really impressed with the way that he handled Tim Means. Means is a big dude for this welterweight division. 6'2", good size frame, normally relatively good takedown defense. McGee ran him over and got a quick win at home in Utah. Started the card off with a nice finish and a feel-good story with McGee getting the win. So big W to Court McGee, probably sending Tim Means into retirement. McGee's got a few left. I'm interested in seeing what else he's got in the tank. Our second fight on the card, we had Tisha Pennington versus Carla Esparza. I disagree with the narrative that Joe Rogan pushed that this was a robbery. I think that was simply wrong. Now, I scored the fight live, and I feel like I have a pretty non-biased scorecard. Round one, Carla Esparza definitely won. Nobody's arguing that. She landed the takedown. She got some control. Yes, Tisha looked good with the hands early, but Esparza finished in a dominant position and did a bit of damage with ground and pound. I'll give her the round. Round two, I scored it for Tisha. Tisha looked clean on the feet. Tisha touched her. She stopped takedowns. She moved well. She got it. Round number three, Tisha was landing some clean shots on Carla Esparza. And let's not forget about leg kicks. She was destroying Carla Esparza's lead leg. Yes, very late into round number three, Carla Esparza got a takedown, but it's not like she got to mount and started dropping hammers. Tisha was still trying to scramble from the bottom, was throwing shots until the very end from the bottom as Carla's throwing punches. And I know the commentary after, specifically Joe Rogan, sold it as if this was a robbery. I thought it was a disgrace to Tisha because she actually put on a quality performance against a former champ and avenged a loss from the damn Ultimate Fighter days. Yeah, Carla finished strong, and in a 5-round fight, who knows? But by no means was this a robbery. It's a close fight, but it's definitely not a robbery. Tisha deserved the win at the end of it. I thought she clearly got 2 rounds. I don't understand this robbery narrative. It's not like Esparza took her down and bodied her for the entire 3rd round. Did they forget about the 4 minutes and 30 seconds of Tisha outstriking her and landing gnarly kicks to the legs? It's like, let's just ignore leg kicks. Those aren't factors. Those aren't factors in fights. Let's ignore the bruising on Esparza's leg and just count a little bit of ground and pound, which didn't really land flush, and a takedown. Yep, you win. It was embarrassing. I thought that Joe Rogan's commentary here was negative, and I actually thought that she took away from Tisha Pennington's win, which I thought was very disrespectful, and I did not like it one bit. I get it. Carla Esparza is retiring, and they had the montage for her, but who cares? She goes out on a loss. It doesn't really matter now. She's retiring. She finished fighting well. She had a good performance. If she said to the UFC, hey, I want to do more fights, yeah, I'm not arguing she isn't still top 15, top 10. She can still compete against a lot of the better girls in the world. She might beat girls that Tisha lost to. But Tisha deserved the nod at the end of it. And there is no robbery in this fight. I completely disagree with that false narrative that was pushed out by Joe Rogan. So Tisha Pennington, congrats on the win. Esparza, congrats on the career. Nice avenging of a loss. And Tisha looked good. Tisha looked good. She's still amongst the elite. Next fight on the card, Ryan Spann and Ovince St. Preux. There wasn't much to this fight. Spann was looking quick with his hands, and he was looking to land that bomb of a straight right. As he got to OSP, he had him badly hurt, and he locked up the ghillie. I told you guys, man, I'm thinking D-Gen prop, lock up that submission, and Ryan Spann guillotine, gets the tap from Ovin St. Preux. Spann looked really good. He looked so clean on the feet. He got through OSP fast, and it wasn't like a fluky win. He landed clean shots, and then he locked up a submission. He's nasty with those guillotines. And I think Ryan Spann is still interesting at 205. I feel like it's easy to kind of write him off because he took 3 losses in a row, but I think he still can definitely handle plenty of unranked opposition. And regardless, he's going to have fun fights against some of the better guys in the weight class too. He's got legit power. He's got submission skills. When Ryan Spann is confident, he's definitely one of the better light heavyweights in the world. And let's be real, Ovin St. Preux is 1,000% over the hill. He's 27-18. He's been fighting a damn long time. He's lost a fair amount of fights. His Nzechukwu win was a razor-thin, close decision, and Spann is levels above Nzechukwu, and I think he would have knocked Nzechukwu out. So I think that Superman Spann is finally getting respect. I get it, he was a favorite, right? The bookies gave him respect, but there was some love on that OSP dog side for sure, and I thought that Ryan Spann should have been a bigger favorite in this fight. I actually thought the odds at -230 the day of the fight were kind of a steal for Spann, who was levels above the prime version of OSP, and yeah, it was 1,000% true. My assumption / hypothesis was more than accurate in this fight. And I was really happy that Ryan Spann looked good, because I will consider myself always a Ryan Spann fan. Through the thick and the thin, I'm supporting my guy Ryan Spann. Good win for him. Put it on OSP. Look clean. And I think that he has something fun forthcoming. I don't have the matchup in my mind yet, but I know there's something out there for him. Next fight on the card, César Almeida versus Ihor Potieria. This fight was awful, not because it wasn't fun at moments, but because simply it was refereed by an imbecile. The referee in this fight had no control over it, okay? César Almeida landed 4 or 5 clean eye pokes that the referee is only calling a timeout on like one of them. And it's only because Potieria is like turning away. The first couple, he's trying to let it keep going. It was awful. It was literally awful. Like, this can't be a thing. You can't referee a UFC level fight being that freaking incompetent, because we got serious money at risk with these guys, right? This is the highest level of fighting. But on top of that, more importantly, health at risk of some of the most dangerous fighters that walk this freaking planet. You can't have a dummy in there, okay? To that referee, you need to go back to school. Go back to the... I don't even want him on the amateur circuit. I don't want this guy coaching 6-year-old soccer. Somebody's getting their head kicked off or a shin snapped. This dude needs to stay away from sport. We get him maybe refereeing some chess or something like that. I don't know. We'll have some controversial chess matches in 2025 if that's his next move, because the refereeing was awful. He did not intervene with the eye pokes. Yes, César Almeida won the fight, but it was an absolute sell of horrible refereeing that changed the narrative of this fight, because who knows how it would have played out if there was proper timeouts, if there was a point deduction. I still think ultimately César Almeida was the better fighter and he won, but it wasn't a clean win when you're literally scarring up Poteria's eye with multiple eye pokes, like 4 or 5 legit, not like, oh, grazing eye poke. He didn't just touch the eye. His finger's in the eye. He's digging in there and twisting it around and shit. It was a bad look. That referee should never ref a UFC fight ever again. I'm not even joking around. Now, to touch on the positives, César Almeida looked better on the ground than ever before. He actually had mount on Potieria and beat him up a bit from top position. His striking, as usual, looked good. Potieria still looked kind of game, and I mean, he was quick. It's just, dude, you can't even get into a flow state as you're getting your eyes poked. So, kind of unfair to say that Potieria is getting cut after this, when I hope the UFC is willing to do right by Potieria and give him another fight. First thing, he was in a bad matchup here, but aside from the fact that this was already a bad matchup for him, he had the damn referee against him with no foul calls. And bro, I was on Almeida. I parlay Almeida. I'm team Almeida all the way, but I'm telling it how it is. Potieria deserved a little bit more time. Potieria deserved a little bit of respect in this fight. It was a disgrace to me that they just threw Potieria like that, like a moron. Let him get beaten up, his eyes gouged. Fuck him. No care for the athlete. Horrible refereeing. César Almeida with the win, but Potieria is still a tough dude. He went distance, and we got to keep him around. Almeida's, I don't know, he's good, but I don't think he's like making any title runs or anything. Next fight on the card, Alexander Hernandez and Austin Hubbard. This was A pretty competitive fight, especially down the stretch, but I do think Hernandez edged out the first 2 rounds. He was a little quicker and cleaner than Hubbard, and he was consistently able to stop Hubbard's takedowns. Now, something that I touched upon pre-fight is I thought Alexander Hernandez is a substantially better fighter at 155. When you look at him fighting down at 145 pounds, he looks kind of trash. Like, nobody's sitting here and arguing that. But when you see him fighting at 155, he has moments where he looks pretty good. I mean, it's reminiscent of the guy who at one point knocked out Beneil Dariush. His kickboxing was pretty smooth. He struck well from the outside. I do think he fatigued a bit late, and Hubbard definitely beat him in round 3. But Hernandez still landed big shots in that 3rd round. He was still sitting in there and mixing it up with Hubbard. And my scorecard was 2-1 for Hernandez. He won the first 2 and then lost the 3rd. It's easy to say, oh, Hernandez should have got beaten. You know, he should have not won that fight. It was a robbery, yada do. Because of the finish for Hubbard being so impressive, that's what leaves the impact of, the minds for a lot of fans, in the minds of a lot of fans, rather. But when you're actually watching that fight and scoring it, how fights are scored round by round, I do think the rightful winner was Alexander Hernandez, regardless of a rough finish. But respect on him for still swinging till the end. And he landed big shots on Hubbard late. He absolutely sat in there. He showed that he still got some heart. Alexander Hernandez is a fun guy to watch at 155. He's definitely not getting released now. I was definitely worried. Like, if he loses this fight, there was a real chance that there was no more for Hernandez. But no, that wasn't the case. So, good win for Hernandez. Decent showing for Hubbard too, though. Not like he's getting cut or anything like that. Both guys are staying on that lightweight roster. You know, more back-end matchups for both. But Hernandez keeps the career afloat and gets back on track, snapping the 2-fight losing streak. Stay at 155, Hernandez. Next fight, Iasmin Lucindo versus Marina Rodriguez. This one was interesting. So, again, the scorecards were close. I did think that Lucindo had done enough, but not enough that I could have said, oh, it's a robbery if she loses. It really could have gone either way, and I think that it was just a real close fight. I mean, the first round, I thought that Rodriguez won with more substantial shots, more significant shots, more fight-damaging shots. And then second and third, I feel like Lucindo got her by a bit with mixing in the takedowns. I think that's what got her the win. Now, I understand, it's like, oh, well, she didn't really do a lot. She had the mount in round 3, but then she was putting her chin in Marina Rodriguez's eye and looking like to crush it. And I guess that's an illegal technique. So then the referee stood them up and she lost mount position. But I did still think she won the fight at the end. Ultimately, it was close. But I thought Lucindo got her by just enough. But if it would have went the way of Rodriguez, I wouldn't be sitting here arguing, saying robbery. So I would say coin flip decision between 2 girls that were really close in skills. What's crazy is, look at the records. They're both 17-5. Now, I know Rodriguez also has 2 draws, but ignore the draws. Look at the age difference. Isn't it kind of crazy how experienced Lucindo is at not even 23? I'm telling you right now, Lucindo seems to be a future title challenger or potentially a future world champion because the skill set that she possesses at this young age is insane. Regardless of what you thought of the result of this fight between Rodriguez and Lucindo, as competitive as it was, no matter what side you were on that should have won the official decision, it can't be denied that Lucindo in like 2 years' time is very live to be challenging for a belt. So I'm pretty damn excited for Lucindo. And I did think she did just enough to pull through against a very game, experienced Marina Rodriguez, who now takes that rough loss that sends her backwards, right? The loss that she's the gatekeeper and the new blood surpasses her. So I don't know where they're going to put her. I definitely don't think she's retiring. Rodriguez didn't really look old in the fight. I know she's 37, but I still think she's relatively youthful as far as her physicality goes. And I expect her to stick around for some more. It's just Lucindo is a really nice prospect who did pretty well. The body locks, the takedowns were keys. Decent punches. Yes, there was moments for sure with Rodriguez's hands, and her striking from range was pretty on point. Now let's jump to our next fight on the card, which was our featured prelim. Joaquin Buckley versus Wonderboy. 3rd round KO for Buckley in this fight. Holy shit. So the fight starts with Buckley putting pressure on Wonderboy and taking him down like immediately. Now, Wonderboy did get back up to the feet, but Buckley definitely brought a lot of pressure in round number 1. and I do think he was looking pretty good. Like, I thought Buckley definitely got the first round, backing Wonderboy up, hit him with some decent shots. Wonderboy had moments too, but Buckley made him uncomfortable and deserved that first round. Second round, I thought that Wonderboy looked relatively clean with his striking. I feel like he was pretty smooth with it and on point. Now, I just think that Wonderboy still's got some fight left in him. I really did. I was thinking to myself, man, Wonderboy's still good. Wonderboy's not washed. Like, don't write off Wonderboy yet. Round 3 comes and Wonderboy's looking good. He's still moving on Buckley. Like, yes, Buckley's landing some big punches on Wonderboy, 1,000%. Actually, I think I might have mixed the rounds up. It's 3 in the morning right now. I think that actually maybe Wonderboy won the first, Buckley the second. Or am I mixing the two? It's blurry for me. I rewatched the Aldo fight, not this one. But I know in round number 3, obviously Buckley landed the kill shot. But when you think of that third round, Wonderboy actually looked like he was kind of en route to winning the fight. He was picking his shots well. He was staying away from Buckley. It seemed like we were going to see Wonderboy take a 29-28 decision home. But instead, Buckley delivers the right hook from hell, explodes into it, and down goes Wonderboy, knocked out for the second time ever in violent fashion. And Joaquin Buckley's got himself a performance of the night bonus, well deserved. Buckley called out Usman after the fight, which I thought was a really interesting call out. It's not that it doesn't make sense to fight against Kamaru Usman, but I sometimes think, does the UFC give Usman that fight though? Does Buckley earn that? The Ian Gary fight's always made sense to me, but I doubt they'll put him with Ian Gary. There's a chance they throw him Sean Brady, which I think would be a disservice to the weight class. Or Leon Edwards. But then again, is that too far of a jump up the ranks? You get where my head's at. You get what I'm talking about. Now, for Wonderboy, could this be a retirement? Maybe. Could he take some time off and then fight Michael Venom Page? I think that's a possibility. But bad knockout loss in this fight against Joaquin Buckley, that makes me wonder if the chin is not going to snap back. Like, next time, does he get knocked out again? Because at 41, getting KO'd like that, the way he went down, he was completely shut off. It was a really sick knockout. Joaquin Buckley is freakishly explosive and athletic, and he's really found his flow now at 30 years old. He's absolutely primed. I want him to get a good fight. I like the Usman call-out. It's way better than the McGregor call-out last time. But I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll think about it some more as far as the match I want to see next. I don't hate the idea of him fighting against Usman at all. It's just I don't know if he's going to intrigue Usman into that fight. You get what I mean? We shall find out. Buckley, ultimately, nice KO, and it's good to see him making a run now at 30 years old and really becoming the contender that the potential always kind of loomed and we always wondered. Now it seems like reality. Next fight on the card, it brought us to our main card opener, Kayla Harrison versus Ketlen Vieira. So Ketlen Vieira early in round 1 stopped some takedowns, but Kayla Harrison did eventually get on top. And actually, it seemed as though if there was more time, she would have potentially finished Ketlen Vieira from mount or with the back control in round number 1, because she definitely got to her on the ground. Ooh, pop out the Zin real quick. But round 2, though Kayla Harrison, I think, won every round. I'll just spoil that if you haven't seen it. She won every round. I really have to say, like, Ketlen Vieira busted her up in round 2 with that freaking elbow to the forehead that swelled up nasty. And in round 3, Vieira had okay moments defending takedowns and with the striking, but Kayla Harrison was, like, consistently in her face, and Harrison started out kickboxing her. She was ripping at the legs really nicely and, like, sweeping Ketlen Vieira because of it. Yeah, it was definitely a Kayla Harrison win, and I think that some people are alluding to a point that Kayla Harrison has lost some form of hype because of this fight. And I'm just going to say I completely disagree with that narrative that's being pushed around. I don't think Kayla Harrison has lost anything. I knew Ketlen Vieira would be tough. I predicted Kayla Harrison decision because I thought Ketlen Vieira would be hard to put away. She doesn't lose stock because she doesn't finish Ketlen Vieira. Vieira's most recent loss is a split decision, which could have went her way against Raquel Pennington, who was the champion as of, today, until today. Ketlen Vieira is pretty high caliber. And the fact that Kayla Harrison got a 30-27 against her, I actually thought that was really impressive. And I disagree with them being any type of like exposure against Kayla. Like, we saw how the women's co-main event went. We'll talk about it soon, but Kayla is absolutely next in line. Get out of my face if you disagree. Kayla Harrison is really good, and she's proving that she is as good as advertised with a win over a pretty game Ketlen Vieira. So I was impressed. Next fight on the card, Roman Dolidze, Kevin Holland. This one was really underwhelming. So early, round one, Holland is trying to throw some power punches. He's throwing some hammers out there, some heat. Then he ends up selling, getting taken down. Dolidze on top of him from guard. Not a lot happening from guard. Eventually, he does find a way to get to a more dominant position. And in the midst of a scramble, you can see Kevin Holland visibly show pain, right, on his face. And then he's mounted, and Dolidze's throwing some shots, and like Holland is talking to him from the bottom, trying to throw back. And Holland ultimately survives, but it seemed at points like the referee considered jumping in and stopping the fight in like the last 30 seconds. Ultimately, Holland's toughness came through. He was able to survive, and I think he definitely deserved to be given the chance to go to round two. But he ended up popping a rib, and the team decided to stop the fight. He was in a lot of visible pain between rounds. He was rubbing at it, and it seemed like, it was up to him, and he was unsure what he wanted to do. And then his coach bailed him out of the fight, and they stopped it in the corner. If your rib is broken, you don't really need to go out and fight. A broken rib is hell to deal with. And to go fist fight somebody, especially a Dolidze who's probably going to take you down, and be on top of you, that pressure, not something you want with a broken rib. So I get the reasoning behind him bailing out of the fight. I don't think it was like a bad look on Kevin Holland. I'd like him to get well soon as possible. And we bring Kevin Holland back for another fun fight. He fought way ahead of his ranking. He fought the number 10 middleweight in the world, and he was tied at number 15 in the welterweight division, which I don't even know if he necessarily deserved that number 15 spot at welterweight. And to get a fight against the number 10 ranked Roman Dolidze at middleweight was a massive, massive leap. I know we fought recently against the MVP, and before that, Jack Della, who's a top guy, but no, Dolidze was, a massive jump forward. Dolidze actually gave him the chance by stepping on short notice. Initially, Kevin Holland was due to fight against Chris Curtis. I'm still interested in that fight, and I think their timelines might be pretty compatible for, when they come back. I don't know. Kevin Holland doesn't really deserve a ranked guy. I know it's a rib injury, but I feel like he should fight somebody unranked, and we should let Kevin Holland, in some aspects, get a tune-up fight. I'd like them to match him up a little easier. I feel like a Dolidze is too damn good, man. I think this was a bad matchup from the get-go, and I think that it might have been a bit of a mistake to put him out there with Dolidze, looking at it in hindsight. In the moment, I'm like, okay, Holland can catch him for sure if he can get back up to his feet. And who knows how the fight would have played out if it would have lasted longer. But Roman Dolidze's smothering grappling and top control seemed to be a massive weakness for Kevin Holland that was exploited early on. So congrats to Dolidze getting a win against a solid name in Kevin Holland, not a highly ranked guy, but a good name. Very rarely are you the number 10 fighter in a weight class and you get to fight somebody completely unranked. So for Dolidze, it's good. He fought somebody unranked with a lot of followers and a big fan base. Does it build his fan base? I'll tell you this. Him fighting Holland and it ending in finish, even like this, as bad as it is that it finished in an inconclusive manner, definitely better for his stock than if he would have won a snooze fest decision. So congrats to Dolidze. Get well soon, Kevin. And then our featured bout of the night. So this is where I'm going to cook. I think that this was a wrong decision. I think this was a bad decision. I think this could be considered a robbery. And before you go jump in the comments, no, but Bautista pressured him. Oh, I went back and rewatched that third round. Now, the initial scorecard for the fight. Round one, I scored for Mario Bautista. He actually had good striking moments, good pressure on Aldo. He deserved the first. Round two was Aldo. He busted up Bautista. He was landing good shots. He definitely got the second round. So I said to myself, I really need to sit and watch round three because that's the round that is up for argument. as I'm watching, Jose Aldo landed the vast majority of strikes from range in that round, and some of which I would consider more than 30%, maybe honestly probably like 40 to 50% of them were significant strikes, clean punches. Now, were there 50 strikes landed? No, but let's say he landed 8 clean headshots with actual finishing intent on them, as opposed to Bautista, who landed 1 or 2, but garnered a lot of control time pressing Aldo against the cage. I guess I believe cage pressure in some facets becomes a gray area of judging. So Bautista controlling Aldo against the cage in that manner, is that equivalent to controlling from half guard on top, but not doing anything? Because if he was in full guard on top, not doing anything, they would have stood it up. And I'm sure in half guard, same thing. They did separate them from the clinch once, but it was obvious Bautista wanted to keep attempting to, in some senses, stall, but really, buy time, hold against the cage. It's still a strategy to win a fight because the UFC is a sport, right? And there is a path. MMA is a sport, but the UFC is a sport league of MMA, right? And there is a path to win fights, even if in martial arts that might not be an effective technique, right? In an absolute battle. But in the cage, where there's the obstacle of the cage, it is an effective technique. I guess I just find myself a tad bit confused sometimes because how I view scoring, and I've been told that scoring is damage is the number one criteria. So damage is here. Control against the cage is here. Wouldn't it be takedown pressure and control and then controlling against the cage? Well, wouldn't that be the bottom tier? And then when you look at striking, so pressure in the striking, right? Octagon aggression, controlled aggression, right? That would also be a criteria. So Aldo, in the striking realm, has Bautista backing up late in the fight, moving away from him. Aldo hits him with a few good punches to the face, has Bautista pretty much retreating. And then he's just trying to hold and pressure against the cage. That wins you a fight? I guess it just needs to be more clearly written out in the judging rule set what we're looking at. If control, even against the cage, is essentially rated equivalent to if you landed a takedown and garnered control time, then okay, you won the fight, sure. Okay, that's more of a fair argument, because if he was in half guard on top, finishing the fight like that from majority of the round, like I would say, yeah, even though he didn't do much, I get why they scored it for him. But clinch pressure against the cage rates the same as landing a takedown, which is an aspect of dominance. Like, does pressuring somebody backwards against the cage count similarly to a takedown? I disagree. It doesn't. That's why I'm asking it like this. It shouldn't. At least I'm told that it doesn't. I don't know if there's an official, that can inform me that we are all misinformed and damaged, then not. Number one, I know it wasn't significant damage, but still strikes were landed. Strikes that had finishing intent, right? Aldo was the guy trying to end the fist fight, whereas Bautista was trying to stall the fight by using the cage to garner control time, but in essentially a 50-50 position. He didn't have Aldo even in a full guard on bottom or a half guard. Now, if he was in side control, this is a different conversation. Or even if he had the body lock back control with Aldo facing this way and he had his back tightened, then I would get, and he was throwing shots more like Merab is doing to guys, then okay, that's more of a dominant position. But him and Aldo, for the vast majority, are facing each other, and Bautista's failing on takedown attempts. What did he fail? 11, 12 takedown attempts? And that won him the fight? Failure of takedowns, but cage control as opposed to striking with intent to finish? I don't think so. So I completely disagree with this scorecard. If damage is number one criteria, and if looking to finish the fight is how the fight is then scored in the, winner's margin. Wouldn't number one be then Aldo pressing, looking to get the fight finished and landing shots, not just stalling and holding? That's what I think. So I believe that Jose Aldo was robbed of a decision. He deserved to get this win. Now, yes, he was the dog locked for me. So, of course, I'm going to see your bias comments. I already see them in the chat. Okay, whatever. That's fine. You guys can say that. But I still think that if we are thinking of fighting as the sport that we watch, the style that is more comparable to fighting is not holding somebody against a cage. It's looking to finish them with strikes, right? Yes, 1,000%. So for me, I believe that Jose Aldo should have been given the decision. He deserved it. I scored it 2-1 favoring Jose Aldo. Now we're in the fuck position where Aldo takes an L. What is he going to do? What is he going to do? You know what I think he's going to end up doing? I think he's probably going to fight Dominic Cruz. That's what they're trying to push for on the broadcast table, at least. Now I'm trying to see, like, in that top 10, Bautista's now probably going to be at 10. How is Rob Font at 9 in front of Aldo? I don't care that Aldo was out for a while. I still like the idea of Bautista getting a jump up, maybe a Song Yadong fight. Could potentially wait around for a loser of like a Jan Figueiredo fight, but they may get a bigger name. That Song Yadong fight's not insane, or even a Cheeto Vieira fight potentially. I like the idea, though, of Aldo, Dom Cruz. I agree with John Anik and the commentary team. That's actually the right fight. I thought that Aldo deserved the win. No more title run probably for Aldo. Unfortunate loss. He's took some close L's, but Utah's is not his spot. This is where he got pressed by Merab. But granted, against Merab, it's different because all he did was get pressed. There wasn't really the striking moments here. There is the argument that Aldo had successful striking moments, which should have given him the decision at the end. And that's why I strongly disagree. Go back and rewatch the third round. Tell me what you thought. If damage is trumping all, Jose Aldo won it. Jose Aldo is looking to finish the fight. Mario Bautista is looking to hold against the cage. It's not even a takedown and top control, which is dominance. He's not really dominating. He's just holding. He's just pressing against the cage. In a sense, it's a 50-50 position, stalling. He's like, oh, but he's putting the pressure, I guess. Jose Aldo should have won. Bad decision. Completely disagree with that. Unfortunate. It's all good. Co-main event. Julianna Pena versus Raquel Pennington. Now, this was an incredibly close fight, and I'm actually going to go backwards with how I talk about it. Round 5, Raquel Pennington was coming on strong against Julianna Pena, and I think that she did pretty well in round 5, rocking her a bit, landing big shots, making her uncomfortable. She won round 5. Round 4, she dropped Julianna Pena. 100% championship rounds were won by the champion, but the championship rounds are not scored any differently than the other rounds. So even though in the championship rounds where champions are made, those last 2, Raquel Pennington was the winner. Julianna Pena on my card got 1, 2, and 3. 1 was competitive, but I think Pena did enough to win it. 2, definitely Pena with some back control. 3, definitely Pena, back control, submission attempt. So no doubt about it, 2nd and 3rd were Julianna's, right? And then 4 and 5, the championship rounds were Pennington, with round 1 being the coin flip round. But ultimately, I did score it for Julianna Pena. So I disagree with this fight being a robbery, but I can see how it comes across as such, because when you see a champion finishing strong, dropping the challenger in round 4 and rocking her in round 5, it's like, how do you lose the fight? This comes down to round-by-round judging. This is not the Pride FC. We don't judge fights as a whole, and the championship rounds are not judged more substantially than the previous rounds before. Is that something they should consider changing? I don't know. We've been doing this for a long time as is, and the system works for the most part, but sometimes there's decisions like this that leave you, underwhelmed. Even though my scorecard had Pena winning on the decision, I felt as though Raquel won the fight. She lost the decision, but she won the fight, right? Because 4 and 5, and then if it was going to a round 6, Raquel would have won. If this fight's going 7 rounds, Raquel's taking it home. You get where I'm coming from? So unfortunate for Raquel, especially because she's going to be pushed out of the title picture. Like, in a perfect world where there's no other contender that's really clear cut, I think they run it back. And you know what? As much as they shit on this division and the name value isn't huge, this actually was interesting in 4 and 5. And I'd be willing to watch it again. I have a bias towards these girls, though, because I watched both of them on The Ultimate Fighter many years ago when they first started. And I've always seen their careers unfold, So I have to say I have a little bit of a biased respect towards their skill sets. Nonetheless, Julianna Pena is now the champ. And after the fight, the commentary, specifically Joe Rogan, mentions none other than Kayla Harrison. And of course, Julianna Pena, the heel that she is, turns the attention to trying to get Amanda Nunes out of retirement. I thought that was funny. She didn't want to give Kayla Harrison the spotlight after she had just won the belt, which I kind of fully understand, because in some senses, after you become a new champion, it is a bit disrespectful to now put such a limelight on this next challenger. The UFC tried to do it with O'Malley and Merab, and immediately O'Malley shuts it down. They tried to do it with Umar to Merab, and obviously, Merab shut that shit down. And Julianna, same type of situation. Now, is it fun sometimes when the challenger gets in the cage? Of course. But I think that's more of something that should be left for defending champions as opposed to new champions who just get the belt. And now we're already jumping to the next person in line, because give the new champion their moment. That's what I feel. So Julianna Pena, I think, did it right, shutting it down. But yes, Kayla Harrison is next, and Kayla Harrison is the next champion. Kayla Harrison's going to have the belt. And I don't know if Nunes is going to come back. Kayla Harrison, though, is probably going to have the strap by the end of March. I'm assuming they try to do the fight around February. I won't lie to you, though. I'm interested in the women's bantamweight division again. Julianna Pena is the champ. Kayla Harrison is a top contender. It's a good fight. It's an interesting co-main event. I want to watch it. I honestly really look forward to fights between Julianna Pena and whatever opponents, or Kayla Harrison and whatever opponents. I'd say right now, they're the most intriguing girls at bantamweight inside of the UFC, and I always like tuning in. So I'm curious to see who holds the strap at the end of next year, and I would be willing to bet on it that Kayla Harrison is going to be the champ as soon as she fights Julianna Pena. We shall see. Should be a good matchup. But yes, I'm going to disagree with the robbery claims, but I understand where people were coming from. Ultimately, competitive fight. Can't leave it in the hands of the judges in this one, man. I thought it was damn close. But yes, 4th and 5th will give you at the very least the illusion that definitely the champion should have retained the throne regardless of what happened beforehand. But that's just not how these fights are scored. Let's jump to the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, smash the likes. If you're new, subscribe. We had Alex Pereira tested beyond belief against Khalil Rountree. This was an awesome fight. What's crazy is Khalil Rountree gave Alex Pereira all he could handle in round 1. Khalil Rountree won the first round. He touched Pereira with some big shots. He had Pereira a bit uncomfortable from the boxing range. Pereira wasn't really super successful with the kicks. Rountree was closing distance nicely with straights, and he was touching Alex Pereira with big shots, and I think he definitely took round number 1, and it makes you think, holy shit, is Khalil Rountree going to pull off one of the craziest upsets in light heavyweight division history as far as championship history goes? Round number 2, Khalil Rountree. Big success. Big moment. Khalil Rountree drops Alex Pereira. As Pereira misses with a high kick, he's spinning out of it, and Rountree catches him with a bit of a forearm on the side of the head, and Pereira goes down for a moment. Now, he woke right back up, but he definitely was wobbled. Recovered pretty quick, though, I have to say. Pereira's recovery at 205 as opposed to at 185 is substantially better. So then he recovers. Some calmness sets in, right? Pereira... Honestly, I think Pereira still kind of won the second round, even though Khalil Rountree, though, got to him with big shots, and he had Pereira wobbled on a couple of occasions. Not like dancing every time, but like you could tell Alex Pereira was hurt from the punches. Round 3 is where you start feeling the shift of momentum as Alex Pereira is starting to outstrike Khalil, right? And there's starting to be an accumulation of damaging strikes, volume-based striking, but damaging strikes that are starting to wear on Khalil Rountree. As round 3 finishes, you can feel that a bit of Khalil Rountree's initial intensity and pace is sucked out of him. Round number 4, Alex Pereira enters God mode. Round number 4, Alex Pereira picks Khalil Rountree apart, rocks him on multiple occasions. Actually, I forgot to touch on in round 2. Pereira also ate a high kick. So, you know what? Take it back. Pereira definitely probably lost that second round, even though he was doing more outside of that. Those moments are hard to deny, but that doesn't matter because this fight wasn't going to decision anyways. Round 4, though, is where Pereira really took over. The jab was really effective. He was getting to Khalil with low kicks. He had stunned him a couple of times, and then you could tell Pereira was like, I got a wounded animal here. Rountree was slowing down. Rountree's still trying to swing back bombs as Alex Pereira is absolutely touching him with beautiful punches. But there was this not much left on those Khalil Rountree shots, whereas Pereira seems so fresh. Pereira's gas tank is undeniable, especially in a striking fight. He's not going to get tired. The volume accumulated. He's picking Rountree apart. He's working him with big shots to the body. And then the finishing sequence, he lands some uppercuts on the inside. And Rountree, I mean, he's destroyed. His eye is slashed. Nose is busted. His eye is shut. Like, he looks like he's gone 15 rounds. I was saying on stream, he looked like Apollo Creed as he was fighting Ivan Drago in that 4th round. And then the body shut down. Rountree turtles up. He goes down. The referee jumps in. They call the fight. Khalil Rountree is an absolute warrior, though, because he was swinging as much as he could to the end. But, dude, the body just didn't have any more. He couldn't keep taking that damage. It had to end like that. But Rountree made a name for himself. The dude has heart. The dude's one of the best strikers in the UFC light heavyweight division. And 1,000% Khalil Rountree's stock grows from this loss. He was considered an undeserved challenger, and he actually gave Alex Pereira his toughest light heavyweight championship fight. One of his toughest fights of his career, really outside of the Adesanya fights. And I guess if you count the Blachowicz, I'm not counting the Blachowicz fight. So this fight and the Adesanya fights, toughest fights of his career. Obviously, he lost one of the Adesanya fights. It was awesome. Khalil Rountree's a gangster. Khalil Rountree put himself in a great position because I think there's a huge fight looming. Give him some time off, but him and Yuri Prochazka is one of the coolest fights ever. Please make that UFC. For Alex Pereira, I think it's time that if things work out as expected, Ankalaev wins. I think Ankalaev Pereira probably becomes the next fight. I think we have to find out who really is number one. In the striking realm, I believe it is Pereira. But note that Magomed Ankalaev is also a southpaw, and it seemed that the southpaw stance of Khalil Rountree, especially the well-roundedness of a southpaw, not like Jamal Hill, who's more one-dimensional, did give Alex Pereira some substantial problems. And then you're potentially seeing a wrestling threat from Magomed Ankalaev. Alex Pereira could be bumping into his kryptonite relatively soon. We shall see, though, because Ankalaev has no easy test in front of him. He has Alexander Rakic, who's a beast, and honestly kind of underrated. I know Prochazka knocked him out, but he was winning that Prochazka fight until Prochazka's insane toughness just gets him to overcome and, weather that storm. Pereira Ankalaev 2025 seems like an absolute. Rountree versus Prochazka 2025 seems like an absolute. The UFC light heavyweight division, I think, looked amazing here, and I think it was great for the weight class. Pereira's 1,000% a star in the UFC. I would say arguably, maybe not arguably, he's the biggest star in the UFC right now. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. He's the biggest star. Alex Pereira's the man. I was also thinking it's not a bad idea for Adesanya to make a legit move to light heavyweight and try to go on a little title run. Not to even get to an Alex Pereira fight, but like a Rountree fight or whoever's at the top might be better than just trying to do your thing at 185 where you've already lost to the 2 top guys. I don't know. Just an idea. Alex Pereira and still champion at the end of UFC 307, but he was pushed to the damn breaking point, and this was an all-time classic fight. If you witnessed my play-by-play for this fight, I think it was some of my best work of all time. I think that it was something that'll be in the history books for me, in the history streams for me. It was awesome. Congratulations, Pereira, but also congrats, Rountree, because the dude is an absolute dog. And Pereira did say that he likes how he feels at 205 and plans on staying there. He doesn't want to step on Sean Strickland's toes by trying to cut down to 185 because him and Strickland now train together and have become friends. So something worth noting. Pereira, sick W, great fight. That was fight of the night, bro. You better give them both 100,000. Forget about this damn 50K bonus. They both deserve 100K, especially Rountree. And then we have Buckley with the performance of the night. And then we have Spann, performance of the night. Completely agree. Actually, I think you should have gave one to Court McGee. Just be nice. Give Court McGee an extra 50K. My record for the night was 8 wins with 4 losses. We closed out the show with the money pick on Alex Pereira. Had the money pick flip to Julianna Pena. Had the Aldo lock not come through. He was robbed. Unfortunate. First, I guess not the first L, but the saddest L. Then had Holland over Dolidze, but no, Dolidze got him. Of course, had Harrison over Vieira. Had Thompson over Buckley. That didn't happen. Lucindo over Rodriguez on point. Hernandez over Hubbard on point. Almeida over Potieria on point. Spann or OSP. Pennington over Esparza. And I did have Tim Means, which aged like shit. And Court McGee looked tremendous. So overall, 8 wins, 4 losses on the predictions is pretty damn good. And I was accurate as fuck with my over calls on like the ladies' fights and the Aldo fight. Parlays were on point. If you played the confident parlay, if you played the damn Ryan Spann, Almeida one, you hit. And then if you played with Pereira, Almeida, Spann, you hit. But, you know, if you watch this week's Best of MMA Bets on Wednesday, the Jose Aldo L absolutely sucked because I killed a pretty great parlay that deserved to come through. It was going to come through. It should have came through. It did come through. You just didn't get paid for it because Aldo was robbed. That's how the game goes sometimes. Guys, I hope you enjoyed my reaction to this UFC 307 card. Some final closing thoughts that I have about it. This definitely wasn't some type of exposure of Alex Pereira. I don't think so. I think if anything, this showed Alex Pereira is legit. He can go long. He can deal with adversity and he can come back from it. And he definitely has a championship level gas tank. And for Khalil Rountree, breakout performance. Performances of the night were given out. I mean, Buckley's on his way to a huge fight. I thought that Kayla Harrison looked good regardless of the noise. Ryan Spann looked incredible. I was happy for Tisha Pennington getting the win. I was sad for Jose Aldo getting robbed. And I think that Julianna Pena and Kayla Harrison is a must-happen next fight. I think so. Oh, and Lucindo seems like she's got huge talent. How do I score this card? I want to drop a number. 8 out of 10. It's a 4-star. I really thought this card was good. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. The live stream was crazy. The live stream was popping off. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. If you're new to the channel from the live stream, welcome. Thank you guys for tuning in to the shows throughout the week. I will be back with full card predictions later today, Sunday, October 6th, breaking down this Vegas card with Tyara and Royval. So plenty of content coming. Keep it locked in. I'll also be doing an every fight to make next video for this UFC 307 card. So we're actually not done with UFC 307 just yet. We got more to talk about with it, but that's coming in a new video. Thanks for watching, guys. Smash the like button on your way out. And if you're new, subscribe. I appreciate you guys' support, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.